Hi, this is eBodyNX from the Candid Frame, and we're back looking at some pictures submitted by listeners to the Candid Frame Flickr poll. And this week I don't have a particular topic. I just wanted to talk about interesting seeing. I looked through all the hundreds of images that get submitted each week, and I might have said before, I'm always looking for something to jump out at me. And and today it's more about just the fact that people are looking at the world in very interesting and unique ways, and they're using the camera to produce just photographs that are really pleasing and they're very engaging. Um, I think you'll see that there's the diversity of different cameras that are being used, and despite how many people will just labor endlessly about this camera or that camera and what's the best, I think that this video and many of the other videos that we've seen over the last couple of weeks demonstrate that it's really not about the camera. It's the way that you see and look through the camera that makes all the difference. Here's an image by Faisal bin Rahman Shuvo. He shot this with a Nikon D5100, shutter speed of 640th of a second, f13, ISO 1000. And this shot I just love because of just the layered nature of the photographs. He addresses so many different planes in this photograph that it's just great. First, we have this figure in this bus, this driver here in the foreground, and he's very, very prominent. And then we go into this second layer here where you have a second bus driver who's looking through the window here of his bus. And then as a third layer, we have this figure who's on top of either this bus or another vehicle that's distant in the background. And, it just plays off the magic of threes. It just works so beautifully. I mean, we go from here and we're led over here to this guy in the middle. Then we have this guy here on top of the roof, and his gaze takes us back here, and it's just a beautiful photograph in terms of the composition. And then you got this great play of color that's happening here. The blues, the oranges, the browns, it's just wonderful. I'm not a great fan of this white post here. If we talked about the 5 visual draws, it's not necessarily the brightest element in the frame there, but it's just a little distracting. But there may have been nothing that he could do with it. That's a small quibble, because otherwise I still love the shot. Photographs can't be perfect all the time. But this thing is as close to perfect as you can get, even with this thing being at the edge of the frame. Using the small aperture here was really sort of ideal in order to keep everyone here tack sharp. I don't know if you really needed to go as high as ISO 1000, because the 640 shutter speed was not absolutely necessary in order to keep things sharp. You might have been able to achieve that same image at a lower ISO, but with today's camera, even with ISO 1000, the image just looks fantastic, and kudos to you for that one. Here's a shot by John Lishimer, shot with a Nikon D7000, shot at 1/25th of a second, f8, ISO 400, and this is something that so many people would just miss. They would not see a bunch of empty benches and seats as an interesting photograph. But what John does right is that the subject is not just the benches. It's the light that's coming through these windows that are out of the frame at the top here, and the way they're casting light onto the top of the bench, the seat, the floor, and just reveals the texture of everything in the frame. And then we have this repetition of line and shape and pattern that happens throughout the image. And I just love the deep presence of shadow here. I mean, it provides such a context for these elements. If this was more evenly illuminated, it would just be another boring shot. There would be nothing to grab you. But by the fact that he plays with that light against the shadow, that he makes for a shot that really is amazing in its simplicity. This is the kind of seeing I'm always trying to push myself to observe, because sometimes the most ordinary of circumstances can be hiding a really great photograph. And the challenge for me is not having the best camera at hand. Sometimes it can just be my iPhone, but just being at a place where I can see it, I can recognize it, and I can take advantage of it by raising the camera to my eye and making a photograph. Here's a shot by Gavin Nelson. It was a shot with 5D Mark II, 1/60 of a second, 3.5 at ISO 800. And I suspect that this is a scene that he saw the potential for. He saw all this line, this shape, this light that was happening here, and just waited for a figure to come into this plane here. It kind of reminds me of that famous photograph of Henri Cartier-Bresson, where he's at a stairwell for an apartment or something, and there's a bicyclist that goes zooming by. The same sort of implied shape and direction by all the existing lines in the frame really play a role in that shot, and I think in this shot here. So it results in that same process of our eye being guided to this figure here, and also the fact that he's the highest point of contrast here. And I think what makes this shot more interesting than it could be if he were facing, just walking here, is the fact that he's looking back, and immediately it gives rise to the question: well, what is he looking at? The placement of him in this spot right here is just perfect, but the way he's looking back over his shoulder, it immediately begs the question: what is he looking at? Is he being followed? Is he waiting on someone? Whatever it is, and the fact that we don't get to see his face because he's wearing the hat adds a little sense of mystery in here. I just love the graphic nature of the shot. This is a good example of something I've talked about before, about finding the setting and then waiting for the subject. I mean, here you have the perfect setting. You got the shape, the line, the light. But without him here, it would just be an interesting abstract of a space. But by waiting for that subject to fall and walk into that space, it makes for the shot. Now, this shot by Styron Pennywell was shot with a Sony SLT A55V, shot at a slow 15th of a second at aperture 5.6, ISO 1600, and this was shot with flash. And usually I'm not a big fan of flash, and I don't use it as much as I probably should, but this shot could only happen by using a flash. And I don't mind the fact that it's an onboard flash. I think that the onboard flash really captures and freezes the moment. Even though he's using a 15th of a second shutter speed, the flash freezes the expressions on these people as they're dancing at this party. And it's this expression of this guy here in particular that just makes the shot for me. I mean, I was looking at this picture when it was just a small thumbnail, and I saw that expression, and I magnified the image, and there was just so much to love here. There's just a moment here, and you get the energy, you get the fun. I feel like I can hear the music as these people are dancing. I love how this girl here is holding her drink while she's getting it on the dance floor. And I like the placement of all the different faces here. I mean, you have his face here, and we kind of move across here, and then we have her here, and she's kind of looking down, and her eye just brings us back here. Brings us all in full circle here. You have this one arm here, which is kind of a little distraction, and I probably would have burned that in just a little, just to darken it a little, because I don't want that to be so bright. But otherwise, this shot is it's just happening. And I love the fact that he's using, not a big SLR. He's just using a moderate type of camera, which may or may not have a interchangeable lens on it, but that doesn't matter, because he just captures a fantastic moment. And at this point, it doesn't matter what camera he used. He got the shot, which is just fantastic. And lastly, we have this shot by Jose Miguel, and you know it when you see it, right? This was shot with a Canon PowerShot SX510 HS at 1000 shutter speed, f4.5 aperture at ISO 80. And what can I say about this shot? I mean, the play of light, the color contrast, the repeating patterns, the shadow. I mean, it's just great seeing. I mean, how many times have we been in a hotel room, and there's light coming in through the window, and we just don't see it? We're just so busy packing or unpacking, or just crashing on the bed, or watching the television, that we don't take a look at what's happening in the environment around us. And I love this this seeing the tiled floor, and the contrast of those blue curtains with the light playing through them is just golden stuff here. And I I like this shot because it's a shot that so many of us would miss, even me sometimes. And it's just great to see someone paying attention and making a great shot as a result. Well, thanks for joining me again. I hope this video really inspires you to look at the world in a slightly different way this weekend as you go out to shoot. As I record this video, it's Halloween weekend, so there are going to be a lot of Halloween pictures that are going to be uploaded to Flickr and a bunch of other photo sharing sites, and most of the shots are going to be okay. You know, they're what you would expect on Halloween, but what I want to challenge you to do is to take a more nuanced look to what's going to be happening this weekend and really try to look carefully and try to take a break from the obvious shot and try to create an alternative, something that really speaks to your way of seeing and discovering the world around you and capturing that with your camera. Try to make a really different and interesting shot that you can really be proud of. So if you're finding us for the first time here and you've never heard of the Candid Frame, please visit me at thecandidframe.com, where I host a podcast which features conversations with some of the world's best emerging and established photographers. You'll find a lot to enjoy there. And you can access the entire archive through our app, which is available for the iOS, Android, and Windows 8 operating systems. And you'll find links on the website to download those for free. Okay, well, thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you next time.